Welcome back to the desk. Matt, they didn't like our predictions, but I think it's fair to say that everyone on that desk, including Foxy, I might add, was boring.
Yeah,
They went
I'm,
with the
I'm
safe
really
option.
disappointed in
1-1.
her. I'm looking around for her. She's run away in shame because she knows how I feel about being the boring 1-1 person. Who's like, oh, do a close team. It's gonna be a 1-1. Come on,
Yeah.
guys, be brave.
What,
TJ and
what
I
we
may be
did,
wrong, but at least
what
we're
we did
fun.
was really good because we both said 2-0, but for two opposite teams. And that means, as a collective, it's 1-1, but we've done it without being boring, like
Yeah.
your dog would.
Yeah,
Let's
and you
start
know
talking
what?
about the
The
game.
one thing Foxy didn't understand because she's a dog and doesn't understand betting odds. This means that through both the superposition and our initial cast, TJ, of our vote, we can't be wrong. It's either a 2-0 either way, which means at least one of us is right, and as a collective we're right, or it's halfway between us, which is the sum, the superposition of our analysis, of our guess, of our prediction.
I think
And that
that
means we're
might be
right
your
again.
dog. I think that might be your dog because I've completely lost you. But I
See,
believe
that's the
that what
goal,
you said
TJ,
was
because
smart.
then no one can say I'm wrong.
Oh, the LS strategy. I like it. Let's talk about this game. TFT taking on SuperNova. We both had our own cases. We both said 2-0. Can I have you explain and justify yourself first?
So I was actually looking at TFT's results at the time, and I was really impressed with the fact that they were able to take down Maryville, because that was a little bit of punching above their weight. So I'm expecting them to continue punching above their weight and just pull SuperNova down with them.
Okay.
Flap them with
I
tacos,
think
you know?
Well, I'm basing it off of last week's or week one's performance. Sorry, the week we weren't here didn't exist. Week one's performance, where I saw TFT step up. They did get a game. They did get an upset game, but it didn't feel to me like they were defining it. Right. I was watching that. I was watching that happen, and I felt like they were capitalizing on mistakes. And don't get me wrong, SuperNova have been making a few mistakes recently, but I think if there is a tournament in which they can return to form, if there is a game in which they can return to form, it's entirely fair to start it here and now versus TFT. This should be a guaranteed win. And if SuperNova slip up, then that completely changes the narrative around the scene, right?
I would agree with you, TJ, but I'd like to say, for one thing, we prefer here. Big brain analysts have told me that the way to explain a mistake is not by saying the players messed up, but that they made an unforced error.
Right. I like that.
So
Because it's
if
long.
SuperNova makes some unforced errors, then TeamFishTaco are gonna win.
I claim victory in tonight's match. Keep up the analyst talk. Keep it
You're right.
lengthy.
You're right.
I specifically, we were talking about this, we like to frame a head-to-head matchup. We don't have a fancy graphic for it or anything, but we like to pick out one matchup that we want to highlight. For me, that was Strumpist versus Always Plan. The two mid laners have just looked incredible across all the games we've seen so far.
Yeah, and TJ, I'd really like. Could you give us the full name of that mid laner one time?
Okay, sure. Always Plan ahead.
Very good. I've been really impressed with Always Plan Ahead because I really like anyone who's able to bring out some unconventional picks into a competitive environment and make them work. Back in season 3, I believe, or 4. Gosh, my history is slipping up on me. Gravity. Team. The greatest mid laner of all time because he brought out full crit Hecarim mid. And anytime anyone pulls out anything ludicrous like Always Plan Ahead's Aurelion Soul,
I like you got the
that's the kind of thing I
apostrophe
like.
S there. Yeah, that was really good.
I just assume it was a space and you have sort of a glottal stop. It's Always Plan Ahead. And that's like the full name.
You're a bit of a you're baited by that sort of thing though. You've got a series you're really excited about.
Caster bias.
Yeah, you just like people playing off-meta champions, and I think that's maybe where our difference comes from. Although I would know that you predicted TFT and I predicted SuperNova, so I don't know how to quite shuffle that around, but I really like clean defensive play. I really like when people just pull out their characters that we know are good and they play them without making any errors. And to me, that's been what's excited me about Strumpist. In his best performances, he's been the player on TFT who is making zero mistakes, who is playing a mid lane well, and when other people make mistakes, he's the one to punish them. So that's my hope for Strumpist, and that's where I think TFT's core needs to come from. They did, of course, also make some changes over the last few weeks. You talked about that win over Meriville. They swapped out their top laner in order to achieve that. I was talking to some of the desk boys. They were saying they thought that would dedicate more attention down towards the bot lane. How do you feel about that?
I think on the point of Strumpist, I do agree with you that when he's strong, he's very strong. But if you remember the matchup from week number 1, TFT versus a new, we saw that it is possible to abuse Strumpist. It is possible to force this, despite being an LCS caliber mid laner, it is possible to get him on his back foot as Fivefire did, the Lone Ranger himself. And you can see Strumpist have these sort of, not coin flippy games, because I hate that phrase because it takes away the agency of the player. Yeah, that's not how the game goes, but you can have very high highs and very low lows. And with Strumpist, if they're able to punish him, I think that's how SuperNova can win this. Outside of the bottom lane, if you go into that mid lane, and if I'm looking toward, I don't know why I'm arguing your position, but you know what? It's fine.
Thank you. No, I really like this.
Yeah, if Always Plan Ahead can punish Strumpist mid lane picks and get that early lead, especially on something like Aurelion Sol, you can just roam down to the bottom lane. So I'm just saying, you should pick Aurelion Sol, maybe. Just a thought. So that's my feeling on Strumpist as a mid laner. Very strong, but can be abused into a position where it's difficult, if not impossible, to recover.
So here's what I'm worried about with that Aurelion Sol pick, and we'll get a chance to not see him here. So, but I would say that the thing I'm worried about is if you start roaming against Strumpist, that seems like the sort of thing he would punish very effectively. We've gotten into the draft though, so we will throw the bygones out the window. It is Volibear, first pick for TFT.
My deep, in-depth analysis on that, TJ, is RAR.
Okay.
Volibear is a
Didn't
giant.
know you were a furry, but now is an excellent time to bring that up, and I do support you.
Moving on, TJ, with the baseless accusation there. I really like Volibear, and this is coming from a completely non-analytical perspective. I promise I can and will perform analysis later on in the series. I just think it's sick that he builds Gunblade. That's awesome.
We were watching the highlight clips from us in Clash. The Volibear engage right now is wild. It is my favorite thing in the universe. I want to talk about my second favorite thing in the universe, though, and that has been Ezreal. Over the last couple of weeks, we've started to see Ezreal drafted a lot more, especially into Aphelios as kind of a proto-counter. I want to highlight here that SuperNova are drafting the Ezreal first. There is no Aphelios bad, so my curiosity, I guess, is whether or not we're going to see an Aphelios in response, or TFT are going to change things up.
I assume that this was out of the idea that worst case scenario, it forces away the Aphelios pick and they feel comfortable blind picking it here. However, into Misfortune, I'm not sure how they fare because Misfortune is incredibly strong at poking down Ezreal with her Q and is able to punish him very hard based on their lane positioning. And she also scales up incredibly into the later stages of the game with her newer crit build. So I worry that this Ezreal is just not going to be safe enough, not going to provide enough damage in comparison to that Misfortune, who now has an incredibly beefy front line now that Trundle's been picked as well.
Fine. Dog2, according to my notes at least, is a Misfortune. He originally rose as a Misfortune 1 track. That is his main. So the the TFT AD carry has gotten his favorite pick. Surely that factors for something here, right?
Absolutely. It's any comfort pick that is also strong into a matchup, or at least neutral into a matchup, is a lot stronger. I think this is something that a lot of coaches at a high level and a lot of, I'll say, armchair analysts struggle
get
with.
Through the rest of the draft.
We've gotten a lot of picks already through. Twisted Fate mid. I'm in.
You ever seen that TV show, The Flash?
You know I have, TJ. There was one episode where they had
finale. We fucked with the timeline. He's dating his sister now.
Barry, get out of the timeline.
Welcome to game. TFT versus SuperNova. We blasted through the rest of that draft. So just to catch you up on it, TF mid, I think, is worth noting. That'll be Strumpist carrying that TF. Very popular right now, especially in the LCK, into an Oriana over for SuperNova on the opposite side.
I do wonder, I suspect he's just going to be going the boring AP build, but I would have loved to see the hybrid on-hit build just because I love that build so much with the Gunblade, the Trinity Force, the Zonias, all that. You don't really need it this game. You have a lot of AD damage coming out already from Dog 2, and you don't really have a ton of damage coming out from the rest of the map. There's the potential for Inches to pop off, especially if he's going PTA. Very quick trades.
I want to talk about the bot lane because I always like that. We do have Whisper and Dog 2 on a very, very standard draft though. That is playing to comfort, like you said, Thresh Misfortune. No one can accuse that of anything. They're into Ezreal Yuumi. I'm a little scared for them.
So the thing about Ezreal Yuumi is that coming into the mid and late game, they are very strong with the capacity to chase down everyone in the game. Totally with you on being terrified of that. The problem is in the early game, and you and I experienced this when you tried Yuumi for the first time, and please never do that again.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You can't kick me off
a
the line,
weird
TJ.
gap in my memory that was, let me check my notes, last Thursday at like 6 p.m. I don't know what happened.
Okay, TJ. I see how it is. The problem is you don't really have as much early game pressure. Once you hit that mid game, you have a ton of slow, a ton of chase down, but the early laning phase is not where you shine, and that is where this Misfortune and this Thresh are going to have a hell of a time in the bottom lane. So if they're able to get ahead early, I suspect this will go the way of TFT in the bottom side of the map.
I think that's the right way to frame it. SuperNova have a lot that scales into mid and late game that will be very terrifying. TFT on the opposite end, I'm not going to say fall off, but I don't favor them in the mid-game team fights. I think their strongest point is going to be the skirmishing phase. And we are right into it. TFT with the full engage up here. That's easy first blood.
Yeah, Rosethorn picking that one up, doing a fantastic job of the early gank, setting PCL behind. Looking back on the bot lane, though, something important to mention. This is post-patch, which means Yuumi has just taken a massive nerf. So this is almost certainly a Yuumi without any experience playing this lane. So I'm wondering how this is going to go. Inches Evan maybe getting a gank here from Odd Orange in the top lane.
Yeah, he's in the area. That will be the leap on in, but Inches is already putting a wave of minions between them. He's got his bodyguards out, so he's fine. This rotate may result in a jungle v jungle battle, though.
Rosethorn, I think, wins this from full health. So Odd Orange should be
sure he does that.
The rotate coming in from Strumpist.
Yep, gold card in hand, always plan nearby. But I don't think we're going to see a fight. Both teams' posture, you can already see some of that skirmish potential I was talking about for TFT. They come out ahead in the trading overall. And SuperNova are just a little bit too worried to take a fight right now.
They just want to be safe. This early game is fragile for them. They do need to get an early lead in that bottom lane, and giving away a strength in the top side, potentially pulling in that 2v2 and then losing it, you lose so much jungle pressure on the bottom side of the map. Odd Orange is free to do whatever he wants for the next 30 seconds and get into a better position there. So I understand their caution a little bit. I will say, TJ, also, this is going to be a really fun game for me because every time you say always plan and then into a word, it sounds like a sentence. So you're like, always plan nearby. And I'm like, what? What does that mean?
That sounds like a telegram. Always plan nearby. Stop.
Stop.
Everything excellent here in the Northwest. Stop.
Stop. That's, if anyone knows,
we need to bring back telegrams. Or
Yeah.
at the very least, the language of telegrams.
You know, technically this is a telecast. Stop.
Oh my god, stop.
For anyone who's wondering, we're not actually just telling each other to shut up. That's how you wrote a period in a telegram. I realized that we're boomers and not everyone may know what a telegram is.
Did you know when Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone, he thought you should pick up every phone call with ahoy hoy. To pull out your phone and go, ahoy hoy!
I've always
So we
wanted to
almost-
be a secretary at a company for that reason. Just for like a week or something. Just be like, yes, ahoy hoy, Renham Industries here.
we'll have to leave your dreams aside for now because we do have a Drake. I'm going to be saying ahoy hoy to it over on the TFT side. As they start to pick up an Ocean Drake, do a little bit of skirmish up top as well. That was PCL challenging Inches. Nothing comes of it, and Drake will be scooped up with no contest.
It's a good use of the pressure they had down in the bottom lane, right? Like we said, the Ezreal Yuumi lane, even before the nerf, would struggle during these early stages of the game, and post-nerf, Yuumi's going to have even more trouble sustaining up after poke for Evan. So it's just beautiful use of the pressure you have existing on the map, and Rosethorn's going to pick up that Ocean Drake for the team. I think this will be really nice in the top lane, because it'll allow Inches to skirmish a lot more frequently. But Odd Orange going in for the invade here, Rosethorn's going to run straight into him.
This was something I'm worried about. Rosethorn had a weak performance last time we saw him here in Challenges Uprising. And he's getting a little bit bullied here. Pillar will come through. That's Odd Orange caught out. He'll have to flash away. I think that means it's not worth it.
I would like to say, though, it's nice seeing Odd Orange in competition. I know he's been around in the amateur scene for a while, but I remember when he was like 15 years old and I used to confuse him for the Odd One back in like Season 4. But he was just this 15-year-old Lee Sin one-trick pony who was absolutely stomping people. But looks like he's on the receiving end of the stomping right now, TJ.
Good dodge away, though, with the Ignite ticking. He and Always Plan are safe together. Strumpus has the gold card, will land the stun. Odd Orange behind the turret now, will not be safe. The final card connects, and Strumpus has the second kill for TFT this game.
It's so funny for me seeing the autos be the reason the kill. The Q did like no damage, and then Strumpus autos just take down the entirety of Odd Orange health bar. Really good engage there from them.
Yeah.
They knew that they had the winning combination there. They knew there was no way for Odd Orange to really get out. No flash available, no ultimate available to kick them away for the disengage just yet, and they had plenty of damage to do it.
This is going really well for TFT.
Yeah.
We did say SuperNova would get more of a power spike as we headed into mid-game 5v5 team fights, and I still think that's true. So don't file this as TFT running away with it. But for a game that we very much praised as SuperNova have a chance of just stomping this, returning to their previous form, well, I think that little interaction can do away with that theory.
Yeah, I mean, it's a Yuumi, so she just pops on Ezreal and then continues to not lane. Which, fine, the poke won't go anywhere, but it is hilarious to see her lose half of her health to a Q.
They're already down a plate there. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. No, this is a beautiful job from Dog2 and Wispe. They're punishing so hard down in the bottom lane. They're doing a great job of using their early lane power. I'm interested to see what the build is going to be here from Clyde. I suspect it's going to be an Ardent Sensor first because you're going to need the mana regen so much more post-nerf. But after that, I'm wondering if you still go AP. I would suspect so to get that mid to late game scaling.
Top lane, I do want to draw your attention towards Inches 7. However, now that your attention is up there in the top lane, you can let it wander wherever you like, because it doesn't seem like we're getting anything immediately. There's Rosethorn down.
Ultimate comes in from almost Evan, or Inches Evan. There's the shield. PCL gets taken down. That's so much damage from Inches. Are you seeing this, TJ?
I am, and Odd Orange just gets eaten alive. Rosethorn finishes the kill. It's 4-0. Strumpus in the mid lane is going to be maybe the turning point for that kill feed. This is Always Planned for big damage, man.
Beautiful cleanse there. The flash in from Always Planned. A little bit of health left on Strumpus. He survives. Always Planned. A little bit of health. Rosethorn's going to come in for the gank, but Always Planned should be able to make it out in time. Strumpus does not have that ultimate for a good 10-15 seconds, so... the flash pillar! He really wants this!
The pillar! I do not believe it! It's another kill for Rosethorn. That's 3 kills!
The assist coming in as well from Dog2. This is so much stronger than we saw Rosethorn on the Elise in week 1. So just a beautiful performance there from TFT. The flash engage onto Clyde. No longer able to use that W. Not quite enough damage to get the kill, but that Ignite is still ticking. That will force them away and give them access to another plate here for the side of TFT.
TFT have popped off here in the early game. Evan is trying to hold here, but they're being absolutely bullied in the bot lane. And as you said, that's going to be another plate over. Meanwhile, the mid lane skirmish means that Rosethorn thinks he has access to this Rift Herald. Maybe
it's not
incorrect.
quite correct, but Strumpus does have the ultimate. It has been popped at this point. Should be a 3v3 in the top side of the map. There's one kill going in already. Odd Orange is down. Always Plan taking a ton of damage. Takes the shutdown onto Rosethorn, but won't be able to find another one. PCL needs to find a way out. But that's the gold card in. I don't think you're going to make it out of this one. The Blast Plant confirms the kill, and the double kill goes over to Inches Evan.
The deck is stacked, and the house always wins. TFT, 8-1 now. After another pop-off from Rosethorn, this time Strumpus and Inches combining for it. This looks so good to start things off. You have 3 players here, then the TFTP comes in beautifully next to the pillar, and this fight's just won.
TFTP.
Uh-huh.
Say that 5 times fast, TJ. You ready? Go.
A beautiful double kill from Inches Evan there.
Sorry, I know that's not fair. I just remembered you have dyslexia,
I can't even keep
and that was
track
sort
of
of
that
like
about
abusing you.
letters. That's like, I'm too dyslexic
Hey man, I have
to deal
problems
with
with
that.
letters. Okay, just say TFT, TFTP 5 times fast.
Wow. I actually think my brain just broke.
TJ, it's the TFT, TFTP, TJ. All right, enough abusing TJ, and we'll just focus on the other abuse going in this game. TFT are just kind of running over SuperNova right now.
Yeah. This is an incredible start. This is a good shot play to answer though. Strumpus in the mid lane has the TP to back him up. The TF again for TFT, backed up by a TP back.
Hey, you did it! That was pretty good, TJ. You don't think I could have done that one?
Another forced fight from SuperNova though. They're trying to make these skirmishes work as we go into the mid game. They tried to pick a fight around Rift Herald twice. Second time they actually went for it and lost it. They tried to force a fight in mid lane, lost it. Now we're starting one down bot.
Oh my god, so much fighting going in. I think Inches might actually win this one. Oh, the W! The ult in! Is he gonna find the auto? He does!
Oh!
Inches
Beautifully
just
done.
turned the 1v2.
And bot lane, if you're curious, this wrapped up exactly how you would think it would. Dog2 comes out on top. This turret may fall here. They only have 2 minions left, so it's a race against time. But they've got it.
Desk TJ was really making fun of our brains, but I'm going to make fun of their predictions after this game because, my god, TFT are just dominating.
You were right. You can make fun of my brain as well. I thought SuperNova, would correct their form here, but for all we talked about their power in the 5v5 team fights, they've been forcing all of these fights before we get to that phase. Before they have real power, I think. None of their characters are in a good place right now, and I don't understand why we keep seeing them pick fights.
I think they're just trying to force objectives, and it's not going well for them. They don't have a winning matchup basically anywhere. The only way they can win fights at the current time is outnumbering people, but they keep forgetting about the TFT, TFTP. And Inches Evan, Rosethorn keep roaming up.
The TFT, TFTP, slides in underneath you. You don't think it's coming your way.
No, and then think of how dirty the comms get in that exact moment, because then SuperNova, always plan ahead, is just like, oh my god, it's the TFT, TFTP, and it's just over by that point. You're dead.
Yeah, how do you even communicate that?
I guess you could just say TP, but...
No.
No.
Rift Herald will collide with the mid lane turret. Taking one down, and TFT continue to roll this game. They did send their volley down bot. This is Inches Evan, now under threat.
Kind of. I think he can make it out of this. He doesn't have the ultimate for another few seconds, but will have it up now. So he's going to use it under the tower to save himself. Beautiful timing there. But he's still going to get chased down. I want to see if they can punish on the rest of the map. Good shield coming in. TFT, TFTP comes in. There's the stun. Is he going to be able to find the damage? Flashes away from the shockwave. Always plan ahead. Takes a ton of damage. And now the bottom lane of TFT just shoving in this top lane tower.
Here comes Rosethorn. Pillar again. This boy heard my analysis. This boy heard these side. Didn't really like Rosethorn earlier in the season. And he's here to prove something, Matt. This has been a wonderful game for him on the Trundle. Instant map presence everywhere. He completely knocked Odd Orange out of it. Let's take another look at Inches Evan and his really impressive survival here.
Yeah, this is just heroic at this point. He knows he has the ultimate back on cooldown, so he can try and stall a little bit here. Obviously, you're going to try and live as much as possible, but he blows so many of their ultimates, so much of their time, they almost get the kill onto Odd Orange. It is so unbelievably close. That Shockwave and Dragon's Rage down now alongside the True Shot Barrage, so there's no ultimates for the bottom half of the map. No final chapter either. If they can force a fight from here, they're guaranteed to win it.
Pulls a Mark Cuban in the middle of that fight, gets his ulti up, says, there are 4 people here, and for that reason, I'm out.
You know, it's a worthy investment, though, if you're here looking for TFT. I'd put my money on that. If I were Mark Cuban, I wouldn't be out. Well, I'd be all in, baby.
They shorted the stocks because they also pushed top lane during that time, and that paid off. TFT, another turret.
I'd like to really shout out Rosethorn because we did sort of bully them earlier, being like, haha, Rosethorn, your first game on stream was kind of bad, 0-8 Elise. And it's like, yeah, but Rosethorn's done a beautiful job this game of facilitating the team and rotating around the strength. Every single time there's room to take a dragon, Rosethorn's there. The moment they had pressure top lane and the Rift Herald is up, Rosethorn's there. There's a Gromp within range of his smite, Rosethorn's there.
I didn't know that was what I needed from Rosethorn, but he's there!
You remember when we were talking on, like, I think it was the week 1 desk, and we were like, oh man, Infernal map has so many blast plants. This is the first time I've actually, like, seen it in action and paid attention to it. That's a lot of blast plants, TJ. It's like a ludicrous amount of blast plants. They went to Costco for these.
Got them in bulk, but they're still high quality. Kirkland Brand. That's going to be a lot of damage into Wisbane, but he'll survive. Doc2's more in trouble. He's shut down, and that's actually huge. SuperNova benefiting from those mid-game team fights, and they might not be done yet.
Oh, the hook turns on onto Odd Orange. Might not be able to find the re-engage here, but meanwhile, Inches7 gets the 1v1 in the top lane. They will rotate down for this dragon, but in the meantime, Inches7 has TP up in a few seconds, plus ultimate, and is going for that top lane tower. So this is a dangerous position to be in if you're SuperNova.
Inches just tearing away at the turret. SuperNova, I think this is the right call. We want the Infernal Drake. And off of that shutdown gold, I think that's the path to the late game for them. But they are going to lose the majority of the HP on that turret.
Ultimate and TP available here for Inches, so should be able to get out safely. And yeah, no, that was a good adjustment from SuperNova, and they're going to be sitting happy after that one, because from here, you can sort of start pushing back towards that late stage of the game. Despite how punished they were in the bottom lane early, Evan RL is granted 30 CS down, but 1-0 and 2 has the, not quite the Muramana upgrade just yet, but it's working towards it. So this mid to late game is workable. But TFT have been punishing incredibly well so far.
Incredibly well. And I do want to kind of run the narrative to point it out. We did say that the hope for SuperNova was the 5v5 team fights, right? It was when we started to see them fight as a full team in the mid-game. It took longer than they wanted to get that online, but we saw that mid-lane skirmish go their way because of their strength in team fights. And there is a path back to victory for them, especially now that they kept TFT off of Infernal so far.
The one thing I would worry about here if I were SuperNova is Inches7 has kind of gotten out of control at this point, and it's incredibly difficult for him to be shut down. PCL can't 1v1 him and will continue to struggle in the 1v1 against him. And from that point...
Oh my god. All right, Producer Joe. I'm not sure about that.
I don't know why we're doing paparazzi shots here. Dog2's 0-1, man. Do paparazzi shots. Do that same shot for Volibear's recall, please.
Give me the Volibear paparazzi shot, Producer Joe.
Next time he backs, I'm gonna... Yeah, I trust him.
No, I mean, you raise a good point. This isn't by any means an easy path back for SuperNova. One of the reasons is this Rift Herald fight coming up. You can see SuperNova don't feel comfortable properly team-fighting anything yet, and that's going to keep them behind.
And they're going to be losing this Rift Herald as well. So I want to see TFT use this as the... Oh, here we go. Come on, Producer Joe. That's the shot. Him angry.
Now
that's an angry boy right there. And I respect
Now that, you know, that right there, kind of hot, not going to lie. Just like Inches7 has been hot this game.
5-1-3 so far, just absolutely dominating that top lane matchup the entirety of the game, to the point where PTL's kind of, I'm not going to say useless just yet, but he only has Blade of the Ruined King at 20 minutes into the game. He doesn't have a whole lot of items. Strampus is just gunning for this, holy.
PCL has to blast out of there. Briefly slides into a Michael Bay move. He gets over the wall. Now, SuperNova across the map are struggling. Like how we just have recall cams now. Oh, TP cam. Okay. I was like, why are we showing that? He's TPing up to top lane. And that is a major spell burned. Thanks, Producer John. We're going to have to keep our eye on it as we head into the next strike, because I think that's really where SuperNova are going to feel they have to fight. And in that team fight, to me, we're just gunning for Evan RL. It is all about this Ezreal.
Yeah, that is going to be the way. A good engage from Always Plan Ahead and PCL to set up for the Evan RL damage. That's the goal. The problem is they have not had a straight-up 5v5 team fight that they have had an advantage in this entire game. It has always been split fights. They have found some picks here and there, and that's fantastic. But they have not been able to find those 5v5s. And oftentimes when they think they're about to, they get picked off or they get poked out. And that's what I'm worried about for SuperNova.
There is a developing skirmish here near the Baron that gives intel. They know there's 3 members up there, which means the PCL needs to back off of the bot lane. We're seeing this get very dangerous. They're going to exploit that knowledge. Here comes the Rift Herald mid lane.
Rift Herald has been dropped. Evan RL. Oh, final chapter being blown for this. I'm not sure. PCL's here for the flank, but I don't think this is a good engage here, TJ.
Oh my god, he's into the backlines of Rose Sword. The damage the PCL needs to get out now on Orange's kick will facilitate that. Nobody dies, and indeed, on the whole, SuperNova come out ahead of the trains, but they blow a lot for it.
Well, I don't even know if I'd say they come out ahead, TJ. They use 2 of their strongest teamfight ultimates, the Dragon Rage and the Cyclone. Like, that's your engage ultimate gone, that's your disengage / kick someone into your team ultimate gone. You have the Shockwave still, and you'll have the True Shot Barrage, but you've lost all of your engage for the next, like, 2 minutes. That's not great.
Oh, surely not. Okay, good. We're back in. And yeah, as you point out, they have no tools to fight this with, which is very likely why they're allowing TFT to grab the Infernal Drain. This puts them on Infernal Soul points, and that adds yet another win condition for TFT to the board. SuperNova have done a marvelous job. Sorry. SuperNova have done a marvelous job extending this game, but I'm worried that we may be at the end of their run.
So I'm terrified here for the next 4 minutes. As soon as that dragon spawns, I'm worried for SuperNova, because if TFT get it, how do you kill Inches Evan at this point? What do you even do against this massive bear? He can jump into the middle of the back of your team. He has flash available. He'll have ult available. He'll have a Death's Dance on him, plus the damage and the move speed coming in from the Trinity Force Phage passive. Like, once he gets into a fight, you're not getting out of it until he kills you. He's going to have a ton of sustain, a ton of extra damage. He can just burst down the Ezreal. Or if he can't get to the Ezreal, there goes the Orianna. There goes the Lee Sin. There's no tanks on this team. Inches Evan can just tear through all of them.
You just need to bear with it for the rest of the fight. It's awful. But on the other hand, I think Evan, they did the right thing on SuperNova. They sat back, they said, okay, let's just scale into this late game. We've already lost the early game. And I think Evan RL is reaching the point where he's going to be able to do damage, where he's going to be able to knock people down.
He has hit that 40% CDR mark and the Muramana transform, which is usually where Ezreal gets his damage out. But it's so late into the game, I'm worried it's a little bit too late. Because at this point, look at how much damage they're doing to this tower. It just dies.
Inches, real quick, 1v1, well, 2v1. Strumpus was there, well. The turret in the mid lane, there's going to be some effort to do the same, but we're just split pushing, baby.
Yeah, there's a TP available for Inches Evan. There's the ultimate available coming out. Oh no, the TP flank. Strampus is coming in as well. Has Destiny available.
TP in as well for SuperNova. Here comes Inches Evan right into the backlines. There's no flash slap needed for this bear. He's instantly gone. Evan melts him back.
There's the ultimate into the backline from Dog2. Not able to find all of them, but they're pushing forward. They have the slows down. If they can get the re-engage, they should have the damage. But Evan RL, this is what we were afraid of. He's pumping out so much damage, they're forced off the fight. And that might be the turn on to Baron from SuperNova.
They go immediately to Baron, and that has completely changed the narrative of this game. We have gone from TFT in the driver's seat to them being tied up in the trunk. This is devastating.
No.
How do you bring it back? Rosethorn looking for something.
Oh, not like that. Rosethorn not going to be able to find anything because the mid laner's down. Strumpus got taken out. PCL's low, but Rosethorn not even going to be able to find
clean.
PCL survives. Evan RL has hit that item spike, and there's nothing left for TFT as the Baron should go down uncontested.
Evan comes out on top in another fight, and TFT are battered down. SuperNova sat down, kept their heads down, got through the early game, sat through the mid game, and here we come in the late game with those 5v5 team fights, and it starts off of TFT's initiation.
So I thought this was going to be a really good engage. The one thing I didn't mention about Inch's Evan is that he has almost no tank stats. So watch what happens when he engages and they all just turn immediately onto him. Strumpus ults away from his top laner, which means Inch's Evan is stuck in a 1 versus 5. Turns out when you're in a 1 versus 5 against the mid laner and AD carry, you just get burst. And then in comes the beautiful shockwave, Whizbay is down. Dog2's ultimate gets dodged out by the entirety of SuperNova, and from there on, it just doesn't matter. Evan RL and the support just have the chase down. Clyde's just there being a cat, man.
Look at Evan in these team fights, man. This is devastating. That just completely flips the game. You could see SuperNova now with the Baron rushing down the mid lane, completely in control. I think your dog might have been onto something, Matt. This is looking like an incredibly close series all of a sudden.
I'm staring at her, and she's relaxing with her massive brain hidden behind a box.
Foxy just knows she's right. Here comes the push, the siege
she's not anxious
for
at
the
all.
inhibitor turrets.
I don't know how you bring this back as TFT. You no longer have the... No, you have Destiny. You may be able to get the engage. Evan has ultimate available as well. If they can find a good flank engage onto Evan, I think there's a chance. The Dragon coming up in 8 seconds, and this was what I thought was going to be the turning point for TFT, but may instead be the turning point for SuperNova.
They do need to keep this away from TFT if they want to keep their comeback going. Evan RL.
There's the stun.
Out here. Right on edge up, but they kick away. They keep him up. They keep him up back.
The shockwave comes in. Strumpus goes golden. Not going to be able to save himself for much longer. PCL's down. Dog2 trying to put out the damage as much as possible. But Odd Orange dives in. It's the triple kill for Evan RL. And this might just be the game at this point. Dragon be damned. The ace comes out for SuperNova.
The kick from Odd Orange to keep his carry alive. And we are still going for SuperNova. I think it absolutely is the game. 20 seconds on those respawns and a come-from-behind victory in game number 1 for SuperNova.
14-11. It was such a strong early game from TFT, but they just could not close it down. And the red side comes out of game 1 going SuperNova.
I give it a little pause till the Nexus exploded. I do not believe that turned as it did, and it was very well played by SuperNova. I think the most incredible part of it was the recognition of their win condition. That's something I love to talk about when I'm casting amateur teams, knowing, hey, we are not in control of this game. I think I said it around the 15-minute mark. There is no champion on their team that can play right now. And they recognized that just as I did, sat back inside their base, and did not take any risks for the next 10 minutes or so. And we see the result as SuperNova managed to come back in a series of slick as hell team fights come late game.
It was really all on Evan RL at the later stages of the game, because once you hit that power spike as Ezreal, like I said, he hit it at a little bit of a weird timing because he had been behind so much in CS compared to Dog2. I believe the lead was something like 40 coming into when he had 2 items. So, you know, when you're that far behind, you have to make it count. And that's exactly what they did. As soon as they had those items on Evan RL, they were looking more for those fights. They were continuing to force from the mid game, which is something I would normally question. Oh, look,
They're off
in
the charts,
SuperNova,
Matt.
SuperNova 1 doing no damage. Impressive.
It's over the other side. They went off the chart. It loops all the way back around. It represents a 0.
Oh, okay, so it's looping around. So Misfortune's damage is just Evan RL's, and it just moves all the way from the right to the left. I get it now. A lot of damage from Evan RL there. But Inches Evan...
And I do actually wish we had this, because I think it was the support as well, Clyde, that stepped up into that. And I think that really reframes the series. That is at least a glimmer of what made SuperNova so good for so long.
I would say their biggest problem for me was that in the mid-game, when they really had nothing to stand on, they had no reason to be anywhere. They had no power spikes. They just kept fighting for no reason with nothing in their name. So if they can just fix that up, it's going to be a much stronger game too. Otherwise, I think TFT can capitalize on that mid-game.
Yeah, it is a good sign for TFT that they were in as much control of the game as they were, but SuperNova really almost let it slip away. That means game number 2 is going to be a hell of a ride. We've certainly seen a lot in game 1, and we've got a desk to break it all down. We're going to toss it over to Rafa and the lads to break down map number 1. I felt like it worked. I thought I was going to add. Yeah. I knew there was a break, but... Okay. Matt, I felt like that was a little low energy.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I have to say, that was a hell of a game 1 we got there for the series between SuperNova and TeamFishTaco. And, thankfully for most of us and our God tier analyst, Foxy, our predictions are still safe. SuperNova got the win. We're still looking at TFT to get a win. But I in my notes here, I believe it was Niberia said it was going to be a 2-0 for TFT. So, unlucky for him, it looks like his prediction is already down the drain. And, TJ could be looking at a 2-0 for SuperNova here. But, before we get further, we have to look at in-depth because Smacks, TFT are actually looking pretty good, particularly Rosethorn on that Trundle.
Yeah, they definitely brought out the big guns here. We got the Kung Fu Panda matchup up in the top lane. We got Inches Evan. He's on Poe. He's playing the Kung Fu Panda himself, and he's up against Monkey PCL, and they're fighting it out. I assume that's how the plot of that movie goes. The panda fights the monkey, but it's been a bit since I've seen it. But yeah, it was really impressive. We saw a lot of pressure up in that top lane, a lot of early plays from Rosethorn on this Trundle. Very, very impressive stuff. His ganks were sticking. He was getting 1v1 outplays as well. Just so powerful on this early champion. And like they mentioned on the cast as well, it's definitely a step in the right direction compared to that week 1 Elise performance. Definitely better than that one. So,
well, it was going great. The Trundle performance from Rosethorn was definitely a huge improvement over the Elise back in game 1, and so things were looking pretty smooth for TFT up until that 25-minute mark, Cubby.
Yeah, it was really just botched engages coming out from TFT. I mean, they couldn't really put anything together, and it was a bummer because they had such a good early game lead, but because they weren't able to put their tools focused on the right targets, props to SuperNova. They played their way back in. Some good kicks from Odd Orange, Evan RL dancing around the fights. They couldn't focus on a single target, though, and they ended up getting the game turned on them with some pretty rough mid-game fights there. Just the engages weren't quite synced up from Inches Evan and also Strompus in that one.
it felt like they had the lead in the bag. It was 10-4. They had a massive gold lead. I even got up for a second so I could grab myself some Pop-Tarts. I was like, all right, this one's got to be over. But then the engages just were not there. We saw the engage come in, and then Strompest with the TFT TP, or the TFT TFTP away from the fight. And it just felt like really, really disjointed. I hope I got those initials right, but it was
a lot
really
of T's
shaky.
in there. That's all.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on.
Well, it was definitely a interesting game overall. I will say I really like the Kung Fu Panda performance coming out from Inches Evan. I think the focus there was definitely warranted, but going back off of what you said, Cubby, there's a lot of things kind of thrown away that entire advantage for but it doesn't mean that we should give SuperNova off the hook here. Credit to them for keeping it in, and credit to one individual in particular who I happened to draft in my fantasy, who was my pick, Evan RL, 8-0-4, picking up a massive 28.9 points, which is 3 more points than what Smacks got on Always Plan Ahead. And in total, an 18-point difference off of who'd you pick? Strompest, Cubby? Oh, well, you did pick Odd Orange as well. So thankfully you got 22 points out of him. So, but I'm just saying, don't sleep on the marksman here. Thankfully, Smacks, looked at Andy Bendy. That'll be for next series. Now, going into this next game, there are some things that needs to be cleaned up, obviously, from TF going into the mid game. Would you say, Cubby, that the draft is completely fine and they could run that back, or is there something that they should change up during the champ select process?
I mean, really, like with that comp, you're looking for Strompus to kind of be that engaged with Inches Evan, and I just didn't see the synergy coming out from them. It felt like the targets weren't being selected correctly because, if you land that gold card or you land that Voldabear engage, you can follow up with so many things like a Trundle Pillar, like a Thresh Hook coming on in. I'm not sure if they necessarily have to completely switch things up. However, you might want to think about taking Ezreal away from Evan RL. I know it's tricky because his champion pool is very deep. He can play mages in that bot lane. I know that his Syndra is just an absolute monster if we're going to still see that champion around. But I think for TFT, it's more of just, take a deep breath. They got a great lead in the early game. Try to see if they can repeat that. I mean, Rosethorn was popping off in that early game. They just need to try and, cool their jets as they go into the mid game, because it felt like they were really trying to push for things that weren't there and they just weren't in sync as a team.
Yeah, it felt like if you could take a screenshot of just the point in the game where they were up like so many thousand gold and it was 10-4 and they had the lead in the bag, it feels like if you take that screenshot and you take a step back and you're like, all right, what do we do to close this one out? If they like, no, I'm not advocating pausing the game, but if they were to just pause the game right there, I feel like they would have just completely demolished it. They were winning the top lane so hard. There was a point where PCL was giving me negative points for fantasy, so I'm glad they turned that around for my own selfish gain. But for TFT, they've really got to start cleaning up the snowball here. They have all the pieces that they need there. And I think the draft is not really the problem. We're seeing the Volibear, we're seeing the Trundle come in and get that early advantage here. And the Twisted Fate, I'll say that, looked really solid too, especially he was helping out with those early plays as well. It definitely just felt like they didn't have quite the right sense of direction when it came to that mid game, and we saw it very plain and simple in those fights in the mid game.
Yeah, TeamFishTaco should definitely not be disheartened. This is the right direction that they're taking. Just as you said, clean up things in the mid game. And considering the fact that they had the makings of a 1-3-1 in their hands, they could have easily continued executing on it. I don't see any reason why they started to throw any fights or forcing the 5v5s. That was playing directly into the strengths of SuperNova's, power spikes coming up into as that Ezreal is scaling. And I'm not just saying that because he's on my fantasy team. It's just that's just the facts right there. So, but TeamFishTaco getting ready for this next draft here. We've outlined for what we want to see from them going into this next game, but we do want to see how far these guys can take it. Oh, as we're getting the replays here, we just gotta appreciate Rosethorn and Inches7 one more time here. That flash into the shield was absolutely sick. We can always see some early game priority once again from Rosethorn and Inches7 towards the top side.
Yeah, I mean, they totally dominated the top side of the map. Odd Orange and PCL were so far behind, and there's really no excuse or reason that TFT should lose this game considering the lead, but I mean, here you're going to see some of the botched engages coming in and just very disjointed from them, and it's a bummer because they had such a huge lead. They had no business throwing it, but unfortunately SuperNova just got the better of them individually.
Yeah, I'm really excited about Rosethorn's Trundle. I was very impressed with it. He showed an absolute mastery of the use of the pillar. He was just flashing and just popping people up with it as well, cutting off his escape paths and everything. Of course, in this clip, he takes an unfortunate L and then they lose the Baron. But up until that pivotal fight in the mid lane, his pillars are really solid. Oh my god, that kick was crazy from Odd Orange there, though.
And just the rest of the fight plays out here, I mean, the backline for SuperNova, it's very easy for them to just advance on forward. Once they got the momentum swung back in their favor, you saw how easily they were able to close out the rest of the game, which we cannot say for TeamFishTaco, as they had all the right pieces. It's just once it came to the final nails in the coffin that they had to get into place, they couldn't shut it down, and SuperNova came back with a vengeance in that mid game. Now, is there any particular champions? I'm going to throw this one to Smacks here that SuperNova could look to take away from TeamFishTaco, knowing that they're going to be blue side this time around.
I'm definitely looking at the Volibear. I think this champion is very powerful in that top lane, and even though we mentioned it before on air that it's a little bit less likely that it goes into the jungle, I think it's still fine there. You can go for the more tanky build with the Cinderhulk as well, but it's definitely no doubt that it is more powerful top lane, and I know that PCL can pull this off as well. I'm definitely looking for him in specific to have a much better performance here in game number 2, because like I mentioned, he was giving me negative points in fantasy for a brief moment. He was 0-5-1. So I'm really looking at him to clean up his play, make sure that he doesn't die to those early Trundle ganks or whatever champion we're seeing for Rosethorn. Because yeah, I'm really hoping that he can give me some more points in this next game.
Yeah, Smacks, you were looking at a -2 points, in that first 12 minutes. Yeah. So, I'm glad that Piecake Lord was able to at least contribute to the team fighting process so that he could get you back some points just through pure assists. But so Volibear being a focus here, Cubby, as a former coach, what would you tell SuperNova in this instance, and what would you be looking at the draft phase?
I honestly, if I was a coach in this scenario, I'd tell SuperNova that, guys, if they throw that lead, first off, there's no business that we should be giving them that lead in the first place. But second off, we're a better team, right? And once again, TFT, there was no reason they should have dropped that first game, and I just try and build up the confidence going into the game. But something else that I think is really interesting is actually you mentioned Volibear and that top lane meta. It feels like the meta for this patch is really the zoo matchup, the Kung Fu Panda matchup is we have the bear going up against the monkey, a lot of Volibear versus Wukong, and I'm curious to see, do these teams try and change around that matchup? Because I know I don't know as much about Inches Evan, but I know that PCL has a very deep champion pool, and if they get rid of the Wukong or get rid of the Volibear, maybe they can go a little bit deeper into that pool and get a real edge on that top side of the map. Where, as in that game one, I mean, until they were able to turn it around in the mid game, Rosethorn and Inches Evan really got the best of that side of the map.
You said it there, folks. I mean, just getting our little coach's insight there from Cubby, and now it's up to SuperNova to see if they can execute. Obviously, we've been looking at most of their early game as just been a little flawed, and we go back to the top of the day on the desk. We said that SuperNova has just been, unfortunately, very inconsistent. This is a very strong roster on paper, and these are not games that they should be losing, especially in the manner from this. Now, TeamFishTaco definitely getting the element of surprise and being able to get that Volibear pick in there for themselves. But now we have SuperNova, once again on blue side. We have the draft priority set in stone here for SuperNova. But now it just comes down to the question. I think we have to look at Odd Orange here a bit, because Rosethorn should not be, for someone of his caliber and for someone his experience, should be able to deal with him fairly easily. And if you're going to let Rosethorns have Trundle, and you're going to take the Lee Sin into that matchup, then you gotta come with the fire, man.
Yeah.
This is something that you just can't be sleeping on. So now, if Odd Orange is going to go something that for that skill matchup again, like the Lee Sin, or in past games we've seen Nidalee. We don't have a clip of it, but there was one game in particular where he ran Cleanse Smite. I'm not sure if it was intentional, but he was getting dumpstered by Trundle in that matchup. So, Odd Orange, just all I'm trying to say is that he is a much better player than what he is showing on stage right now. So
He redeemed himself as the game went on.
Yeah. He did find the kicks later on. So, but we're gonna have to see if Odd Orange can live up to those standards here, as well as the rest of SuperNova, as we will be getting ready to throw it back to the second draft phase with TJ and Iberia. And I do want to ask them, do they think that SuperNova have what it takes to be able to bring it back against for a 2-0 here against TeamFishTaco?